yes, this Honorable Superior Court for the County of Wake is now convened and sitting for this special session. The Honorable Judge Brian Collins is present presiding. God save the citizens in this honorable court. Please be seated. Remain quiet. Check all cell phones. Make sure they are on silent. Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sheriff. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this special ceremonial session of the Wake County Superior Court. I appreciate everybody being here. It's a time for us to celebrate and remember the lives of some of our departed colleagues. It's a very important thing that we do. I think it's one of the most special things we do here at the courthouse, and I'm just honored to be presiding. And we're going to learn some things that we don't know, and that's going to be fun. So feel free to laugh and enjoy yourselves. This time, I turn the program over to James Hash, the president of the 10th Judicial District Bar. Mr. Hash.
Good afternoon, folks. On behalf of the 10th Judicial District Bar and our 6,000 lawyers, it's my pleasure to welcome you to this special memorial session of court, and particularly to the families of those being honored today. We thank you for allowing us to honor your loved ones in this way. Our bar, which it turns out is the largest district bar in the state, has always prided itself on our reputation for collegiality, professionalism, and service. And we're proud we've been able to maintain that despite of our size because of the tradition of those who have come before us. We're pleased and honored to be able to honor your loved ones here today. Thank you for sharing them with us, and we hope this service will provide you with some uplifting thoughts and cherished memories. Thank you again. I'd like to call on Mary Winstead, the chair of our Memorials Committee.
Good afternoon. I'm Mary Winstead, the chair of the 10th Judicial District Wake County Bar Association Memorials Committee. It is an honor for me to have the opportunity to serve as chair of the committee that plans and hosts these memorial sessions. On behalf of the members of our committee listed in your program, I also want to welcome everyone to this special memorial session of court. On any other day, this courtroom is a busy place where motions are being heard and cases are being tried. But today, we pause from the business of meting out justice in this courtroom and all that comes with that for this special session of court held to honor 4 attorneys who are no longer with us, but who have each left a legacy that we want to honor. The members of our bar are our treasured colleagues, and when they're no longer with us, these sessions of court serve to keep their memories alive. The 4 distinguished lawyers we honor today have been remembered in other ways and at other services, most likely quite a while ago. It is our hope that with the passage of time, you, the family, the friends, and the colleagues of our honorees, find in this time together a welcomed opportunity to reflect and hold on to wonderful memories. This memorial session of court is also different from other memorial services because it allows our bar to celebrate with you the lives of our members and to highlight their professional accomplishments. It is appropriate that we gather in this space to remember your family members and honor our deceased brothers in the law and pay them homage. After all, many of your loved ones likely spent as much time with other attorneys and in these courtrooms as with their families, so it's fitting that we pay tribute to them in a special session of court. These memorial sessions always reveal so much about our multi-talented and bright lawyers of our local bar. Lawyers who contributed to the profession and the community in so many important and remarkable ways. Some of you have heard me say this before, but I've often mused that attendance at these sessions should be required continuing legal education for new lawyers, because inevitably we hear recounted ways the older lawyers of our bar embodied professionalism, perhaps in ways that have been lost with the passage of time. It is the sincere hope of our bar that this session of court will be a memorable and special time for you. On behalf of the Memorials Committee, I want to thank you, the families of our honorees, for sharing them with us and for allowing us to honor them. Our first honoree is Andy Gay, and he will be remembered by Darren Jackson.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Darren Jackson, and this is the second time I've been asked to memorialize my friend, my partner, and my mentor, Andy W. Gay. He was a lot of things to a lot of people. He was a loving husband, a proud father, a dutiful son, a business owner, a charter member of the Campbell Law School class, which he loved to brag about, and a small business employer to many. I could spend an hour on each, but here in the courtroom, here with his professional colleagues present, I'd like to talk about Andy as a lawyer and a mentor. I think a lot of Southern lawyers get compared to Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird. That's a fair comparison for Andy. He was Eastern Wake County's own Atticus Finch, a true Southern gentleman who practiced law. Town attorney for his hometown for many years. Him and his wife Laura, when Andy decided to move to Zebulon, bought a historic home and fixed it up. And then several years later, when a big pharmacy decided they wanted to come to Zebulon, they refused to tear it down, instead taking a year to move it to a new location to preserve the home's heritage and his firm's heritage. He always made the state meet its burden of proof. That was his job as a criminal defense attorney. He never minded standing up for the little guy. But yet, those are still not the reason why I make the comparison to Mr. Finch. From the book, quote, "You never really understand a person until you consider things from their point of view, until you climb into their skin and work around in it." And Andy Gay could do that like nobody I've ever met in my life. From presidents that visited the town of Zebulon, we've had two, to accused charged with awful crimes. From wealthy clients to clients who were dirt poor. And yes, we were paid in vegetables at some points. From small claims court to the North Carolina Supreme Court, white, black, Hispanic, or Asian, Andy could relate to everyone from every walk of life. And he believed they deserved a defense. Andy was at home in any courtroom across this state and really brought forth the true meaning of a zealous advocate. He fought for his clients like they were his family or his best friend. There's an old saying, tooth and nail. Well, he gave that true meaning. When he spoke to people, he would often say, "I understand. I understand." It's a habit that I had picked up, and I've caught myself using it countless times in the last 2 years, and I always chuckle. But he said it not just as a manner of speaking, but because he really could understand, and he really did care. He was respectful to the court and his opposing counsel. He was respectful to all his clients. He treated them all with the dignity they deserved. Some folks he met in what is their darkest moments, accused of doing terrible things, and yet he treated them like they were his most important client. There's a little show on TV that I've watched in the last couple of years called Ted Lasso, and there's a quote in there that I think everyone or none of us should be judged by the worst thing we do in our life. And I think Andy really believed that. And he found the humanity and the good. He met with the families. He talked to them. He was often assigned death penalty cases as a young lawyer in Wake County by Judge Farmer or Judge Stevens. And he was very proud of the fact that he had never had a client who had been executed. I think one case they got the death penalty, but that was overturned on appeal. And he was always very proud of that work. He would drive to Raleigh at 9 o'clock and then drive to Raleigh back at 2 o'clock to do court-appointed work. He did that for as many years as he could. It just made it impossible to run a business on what they pay our court-appointed attorneys. But anybody who practices criminal law could learn a lot from how Andy treated his. The rules of professional conduct say that a lawyer should be mindful of deficiencies in the administration of justice, and that the people like the poor and sometimes persons who are not poor cannot afford legal assistance. And I'll tell you, once he shook your hand and said he was your lawyer, he was your lawyer. It might have drove Donna, Pat, and myself crazy that he didn't always collect his fees, but once he made that appearance, he was going to represent you to the best of his abilities, no matter if you could pay or not. He was also a wonderful mentor to many attorneys, including Judge Donna Stroud, his longtime partner, myself, and Pat McNally, who's remained practicing law in Zebulon under the Gay and McNally name. We spent a lot of time with Andy learning about the real-world practice of law and the business of making a payroll and taking care of your employees, making sure that they are covered and got paid even in months maybe he didn't. I'm happy to see the staff here today to join us in this. The opportunities to learn from Andy were limitless. From the times I rode with him to court in his Suburban, and then he made me park it under the old courthouse, which was an impossible task for those of you who remember those days, to listening to his telephone calls or sitting in client meetings, hearing him give clients tough advice, like, you better bring your toothbrush to court tomorrow. Honest, unfiltered, telling them what they needed to hear, but being that listening ear when they needed it as well. I remember I'd call him after work, or he'd call me when he was on the way back to Raleigh, and I'd say, Andy, how'd it go today? And he'd say, the truck still weighs the same as it did when I left the court this morning. That was his way of telling me I didn't need to come bail him out. He was on the way back to the office. When I first started practicing law, I think Andy and Donna had a tradition, but they took me to buy my first suit and tie from Cannon's. I still wear the tie, have it here today. But due to the thousands of lunches we had of country cooking in Zebulon, I can no longer wear that suit. But he was always there for advice. And later, as I became a more experienced lawyer, he was a great sounding board. Somebody who could give it back to you and argue the other side of the case without doing it in a personal way or a way that would really push your buttons, unless he thought your buttons needed pushing. He also prepared you for those days. He always got the best out of me. To me, he was the perfect combination because from his side of view, he saw all the strengths of every case. And from my side, I saw all the weaknesses. Together, we made it work. And so when I think about all the friends in this courtroom and those here to support our other deceased colleagues, I think the best way to honor Andy Gay's legacy is to mentor others. I talked about parking under the old courthouse. The thing I loved about the old courthouse was the rooms in between the courtrooms on the second floor, where while we were waiting for cases to be called, I got to listen to Andy and Russell DeMint and Earl Purser and Phil Redwine and George Hughes and George Barrett talk about cases, talk about judges and who to avoid and this and that. Just life and things that made me a better lawyer. And one of the things when I first walked into this courthouse and saw that they no longer had those rooms, I thought, that's not a good thing. It's just not a good thing, because I got so much legal knowledge from watching those people. And Andy always took this time to tell you when you did a good job or when you needed to do something better. And so I think the way that we can honor Andy's legacy is to continue that mentorship into the next generation. And it's going to be harder because there are more lawyers. And because the courtrooms just don't provide for that anything. But I hope you will take on a summer intern sometime, or take a new lawyer to lunch or for a coffee. If you see somebody doing a good job in a courtroom, tell them so. And if you see them make a mistake, maybe privately, let them know how they could have done better. Andy always took that time. Andy was a wonderful mentor to Donna, Pat, and myself, and many others. And we honor that memory by passing along He was a fierce advocate for his clients in courtrooms across the state, where his clients would always answer court, calendar call the same way, not guilty, Andy Gay. I know people thought that was his name sometime, but I can't tell you the pride he took in sitting in that courtroom in Wendell and hearing half of those clients call out, not guilty, Andy Gay. I know we all miss my friend Andy, and I will hope you will remember him, his sayings, his stories, and I hope they will bring a small smile to your face. I hope you will strive to represent your clients like he would, zealously and without judgment. The system works best when honest, ethical, zealous advocates appear on both sides of the courtroom. And I hope you will all honor his memory by mentoring others. I am a better man because of Andy's friendship. I am a better attorney because of Andy's mentorship. We all miss him dearly, yet his memory lives on through us all. Rest well, my friend. Rest well.
Thank you.
Our next honoree is William E. Dub Graham Jr., and he will be remembered by Sherwood Smith.
Mr. President, Madam Chairman, and all in the audience, it's a privilege to be here. And I learned a great deal about Andy Gay. I'm sorry I never knew him, and I learned more about Wilson Hayman and Andrew Romanet. Some of you may have associated my name, if you'd ever heard of it at all, with Carolina Power and Light Company. And I worked there for many, many years. But before that, I was a practicing attorney in Wake County and was delighted to be reminded of many things that I could identify with. And it's an honor to be here today. But when you have known someone very well over a long period of time, you've worked closely with him and admired him greatly, it can be a challenge to speak appropriately about him and adequately about him before a group that includes persons who probably did not know him at all. So I hope that my brief remarks today may do justice to the long, very active and successful career of William E. Dub Graham. He was somebody with whom I worked closely for 20 years, from the early 1970s into the early 1990s. We both had some similarities in our background. We both had the benefit of a strong, solid law school education and a number of years in civil practice. I had a little experience in criminal law. Dub Graham had a little experience in criminal law, but basically we were in civil practice. And that provided a very strong, solid foundation for our careers. Dub was someone who was born in a small community, rural community in Moore County. He grew and became a person who received many, many opportunities far away from that setting. And Dub was able to utilize his education, his practice skills, in a variety of different ways. Dub took advantage of every opportunity that was presented to him, and he achieved success in every one of those. As I said, he was born in a small rural community, Jackson Springs, and he attended West End High School there in Moore County. Following his graduation, he went to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and he obtained a degree in economics in 1952. At UNC, he was a member of the student legislature, the Order of the Grail, the Order of the Golden Fleece, and the Air Force Reserve Officers Training Corps. After his graduation from college, Dub served for 2 years as a lieutenant in the United States Air Force in the Office of Special Investigations. Much of that time was spent in a little town called Mountain Home, Idaho. You don't think of the Air Force as being situated in Mountain Home, Idaho. There are a number of strategic air command facilities there, including some very large shafts in the ground that contain Minuteman missiles. And this was the area in which Dub, I would say, landed, went right after law school. And he enjoyed his association with the military there very much. Following military service, Dub entered law school at Chapel Hill. He served as associate editor of the Law Review there, and he earned a Juris Doctor with honors degree in 1956. Following law school, he was selected as law clerk to the Honorable John A. Parker, who was then Chief Justice of the United States Court of Appeals for the Fourth Judicial Circuit. After this clerkship, he engaged in the private practice of law in Charlotte with the firm of Haynes, Graham, Bernstein, and Balcom. They specialized in civil litigation and trial work, in which Dub excelled. While living in Charlotte, Dub was also active politically. He served for a period of time as president of the statewide North Carolina Young Democrats Club. In 1969, he left private practice, and he was appointed by Governor Robert Scott to the North Carolina Court of Appeals, sitting in Raleigh, and he served there for 4 years. Then in 1973, to the good fortune of the company, and to my personal good fortune, he joined Carolina Power and Light Company. And he was there and excelled in both legal and management positions for 20 years. He served as general counsel, he served as senior vice president, group executive, member of the board of directors, and vice chairman of the company. During those years at CP&L, I was fortunate I had an opportunity much of the time to serve as president, chairman, and chief executive, so Dub and I worked very closely together. We worked on a great many different matters. A few of them I'll mention to you now. Of course, legal responsibilities for an electric utility concern regulatory issues and proceedings at the federal level and the state level in both North and South Carolina, in his case. The work included nuclear electric power plant licensing, compliance with extensive environmental regulations, utility financing, regulation of utility rates, always a popular subject, and other matters. For many of his CP&L years, Dub was active in the American Bar Association. He served a term as chairman of the utilities section of that association. Thinking about all of the things that Dub had done that I'd worked on with him, a few came to mind. One of the very complex business and legal matters on which we both spent a great amount of time in the late 1970s was a contract with a group of French businesses and behind the scenes the French government that involved the purchase by Carolina Power and Light Company of a large quantity of uranium. And the uranium to be bought from the French was to be used as nuclear fuel in CP&L's expanded nuclear power electric generating plants. At that time, France was, and it still is, the largest operator of nuclear power plants in Europe. This controversy between the French and CP&L extended over many years. And during this period, and a key incident in this area, was Dub successfully going to the state of California, initiating an action there in federal court, and temporarily freezing a large fund of many millions of dollars that was on its way to the French government and businesses. And it was frozen until the controversy was completely and favorably settled. In addition, on the nuclear side, there were many legal issues concerning the construction of the nuclear power plant in Wake County, the Sharon Harris nuclear power plant. Dub was deeply involved in all of that. These are just a few examples of the kinds of complex matters that Dub worked on And in addition to his legal responsibilities, Dub was an excellent manager, and he was a good executive. He first served as department head, then group executive. He served as a member of the company's board of directors, eventually serving as vice chairman of the company until he retired in 1994. Following retirement from CP&L, Dub re-entered private practice, joining the firm of Hunton & Williams as of counsel, where he spent the next 15 years. While engaged in all of this extremely busy professional career, Dub also managed to enjoy and lead a very full and rewarding personal and civic life. He was married to Jean McLaurin Graham, who's here today. They have 3 children, sons William Lauren Graham and John Graham, who now live in Charleston, South Carolina. His daughter, Sally Graham Helwig, also an attorney and a member of the bar in North Carolina, are all married with children of their own, and those children are now the grandchildren of Dub Graham. Dub was often called on also for service in a variety of civic and community affairs. He served as chairman of the Greater Raleigh Chamber of Commerce. He was active in the lay leadership of the Presbyterian Church and served as a trustee of Union Theological Seminary in Richmond, Virginia. In Raleigh, he was a member of White Memorial Presbyterian Church, where he served as an elder, Sunday school teacher, Stephen minister, and chairman of the Senior Pastoral Search Committee. Somehow, this very busy man also found time for relaxation and pleasure. Dub enjoyed tennis. I need to stop there. Do any of you remember the name Bruce Jenner? You remember Bruce Jenner, the Olympic athlete in the decathlon. In 1978, he visited Raleigh. And somehow, there was contact, probably from the Chamber of Commerce, that Mr. Jenner would be here and he'd tour various places, NC State University, of course, but he'd like to play tennis while he was here. Who could play tennis with Bruce Jenner? I happened to be president of the Chamber of Commerce, and they came to me and said, Sherwood, do you know how to play tennis? I knew a little bit. I wasn't going to admit it. I said, no, I don't know how to play tennis. Do you know anybody that knows how to play tennis? Yes, very close associate, Dub Graham. So one afternoon, Dub went out, and they played at the courts at the Carolina Country Club on Glenwood Avenue, and they played tennis together. And after that, when I bought my boxes of Wheaties cereal, which then had Bruce Jenner's picture, I always thought of Bruce coming to Raleigh and playing tennis with my good friend Dub Graham. But Dub, I'm sure, did very well there. I couldn't go out and see the match. But he enjoyed skiing, he enjoyed travel with family and friends. And in retirement, to myself included, to many people, he also wrote 3 novels. I was amazed when he told me he was writing a novel. I said, well, most of our mental health facilities are moving out of the town, but I can get you an appointment there quickly if that's what we need. He said, no, I'm serious, I'm writing. And he wrote his first novel entitled Spiderweb. He wrote 2 others. They were published. I don't know how he did it, but I was amazed and admiring. And he always returned to the law in some way in everything that he did. So it was my good fortune to have been one of the many co-workers and admiring friends of William E. Gray, Jr., who was very proud to be a member of the North Carolina Bar. Thank you.
Our next honoree is Wilson Hayman, and he will be remembered by Eric Stevens.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is my honor and pleasure today to pay tribute to my law partner, mentor, and friend, Wilson Hayman. Wilson was a loving husband to his wife, Jenny, and a devoted father to his son, Will. He practiced law for 30 years in the healthcare section of our law firm, Pointer Spruill, after first serving as a law clerk for the Honorable Justice Joseph Branch at the North Carolina Supreme Court, and then working for many years at the North Carolina Attorney General's office. Wilson was an excellent and dedicated attorney who gave wise, comprehensive, and effective advice to his clients in a very complex field of law. But if I'm being honest, being an effective and respected lawyer, while certainly nice, was not really what motivated Wilson. Rather, Wilson's legal training was just one of the many tools that he employed in service of a higher calling to do everything in his power to support the cherished causes, institutions, and people that he cared most about and that gave his life meaning. If there was a person or an institution or a cause that Wilson thought worthwhile, he was all in for life. So Wilson was a proud graduate of Princeton University, and he maintained lifetime ties to friends there. But he didn't just follow their sports teams and attend the occasional class reunion. Wilson was the treasurer of the local Triangle Princeton Club. And he greatly enjoyed interviewing prospective Princeton students throughout his life, and helped to kind of nurture and lead them towards school. Wilson was also a proud graduate of UNC Law School, who literally spent one of his last days cheering for the football team, for the Tar Heels. He served as the national chair of the Carolina Parents Council of UNC when Will was in school there. Wilson was an active member of our church, Hayes Barton United Methodist Church. He went to this Sunday school regularly, had great friends there. United Methodists vow to serve the church through our prayers, presence, gifts, service, and witness. Wilson did all of that. Among other things, he sang in the chancel choir for years, a commitment that required him to attend weekly choir practices and wear a robe to sing at 2 separate services every Sunday. Quite well, I might add. He had a great singing voice, and he was an accomplished cello player who shared that talent with the congregation regularly. In addition to all of that, he shared his legal training and experience with the United Methodist Church. Wilson served for many years as an attorney and chancellor for the North Carolina Conference of the United Methodist Church, providing counsel to our local bishop and other conference officials on a variety of legal issues over a course of decades. The North Carolina Conference is one of 54 annual conferences throughout the United States, and conference chancellors have banded together to form a tight-knit association that meets every year and helps each other deal with the various legal issues that United Methodists face. Wilson was an enthusiastic member of the UMC Chancellors Association and served as its national president for several years. Jenny tells me that his work as a chancellor is an aspect of his career that he found particularly rewarding. Wilson loved history, and so, of course, he helped establish and incorporate the North Carolina Museum of History Foundation, and he served as its vice chair. And he, with Jenny, cared deeply about good government, and so he was a frequent and consummate host of gatherings and fundraisers for the political candidates that he supported. There's more. Wilson was an active member of the Rotary Club of Raleigh. And the ideal of the Rotary Club is service above self. Wilson fully lived into that. He served as president of the club back in 2001 and 2002. He was an instrumental member of the committee that planned the club's centennial celebration and helped to raise funds in that capacity for the Wake Smiles Dental Clinic, which still provides free dental services to adults who otherwise would not be able to afford care. He carried on his father Donald's Rotary legacy by leading the Rotarians Against Drugs initiative, through which high school students give speeches about the perils of drug abuse. Now, our club gives an award every year to a local business leader who provides exceptional service to our community. Recent examples have been Gregory Poole, who of course is a leader in the effort to develop Dix Park, and Van Ure, the Angus Barn owner, who among other things sponsors the Walk for Hope that raises funds for mental health research. That award, I'm happy to say, is now known as the Wilson Hayman Vocational Service Award. I have fond memories of walking with Wilson to the Rotary meeting every Monday. He and I would chat and we would discuss law stuff, current events, various goings-on at Rotary, church, and other things with our family and friends. Behind his gentlemanly demeanor, Wilson had a sharp wit that I very much appreciated. And I admired the grit that he showed in more recent years when he refused to complain about the health issues that he was facing or to let them slow him down or interfere with his many activities. Rotary meetings now really aren't the same without Wilson's strong tenor leading us in singing America the Beautiful at the beginning of each meeting. We've got a nice group of folks still at the Rotary, and we try, but we don't have that strong voice to counteract those of us who can't really carry a tune. And I think that small example really illustrates the larger point that I've drawn from observing the life of Wilson Hayman. Wilson understood that things just went a little bit more smoothly at our Rotary meetings when he shared his talent and his voice with the group. He understood that his family, his friends, Princeton, UNC, the Rotary Club, Hayes Barton United Methodist Church, the Greater United Methodist Church, his community, and his country, all needed him to be fully engaged in order for them to be the best they could be. We can all be inspired by Wilson's example to show how much we care about the instrumental people, organizations, and causes in our lives by generously sharing our time, talents, training, and, if applicable, our tenors.
Our final honoree today is Andrew L. Romanet, Jr., and he will be honored by Eillis Hankins.
My father-in-law is a retired Superior Court Judge, Dennis Winter. Told him I was coming to the courthouse, and he said, "You're not actually going to do anything, are you?" And the malpractice carrier would have been worried too. I told him I was going to do something very meaningful today, and I'm very happy to be asked to do that. And I also knew two of the other honorees, Andy Gay, during those years that he served as the Zebulon town attorney, not Zebulon, as some folks who are not around here say it. Andy used to call me for legal advice on municipal legal issues, and that was worth what he paid for it. And Wilson Hayman was a law school classmate and a law partner of mine and ours, Robin, at Pointer and Sproul, and I have fond memories of Wilson and of his father, and Jenny, of your mother, too, all those years around the General Assembly. Andy Romanet, I knew him for some years before we became co-workers. I became the general counsel of the League of Municipalities and the chief legislative lobbyist at probably too young an age. I didn't fully understand what it was that I was supposed to do and how to do it. But it did dawn on me that I needed to hire a more seasoned lawyer who had hands-on experience, particularly representing small towns, who could come to Raleigh and talk to municipal attorneys on the phone and help them with what they were doing, and also go over with me and try to figure out, Darren, what those what nefarious things those folks at the General Assembly were doing. So hired Andy, had a good sense to do that, and thoroughly enjoyed working with him all those years. Andy was larger than life. I mean, he was a large man, and he had a laugh that would fill a room, and people would look. And I thoroughly enjoyed working with him. and bouncing ideas off him as lawyers do in a law firm or any place where more than one lawyer is gathered. And one lawyer is always right, and that was always me, but which was not true by any means. But Andy and Andy, I guess, came to the league. Y'all moved to Raleigh-Donna in 1988 or so. Things went along fine. I finally, Darren, got frustrated, enjoyed working around the General Assembly as long as I could, and went into private law practice. Andy became the general counsel. I was gone for about 3 years, practicing law with some of you all who are here. And it's great to see so many friends and distinguished folks. High Sheriff, who's a friend, Clerk of Court. Unlike the previous distinguished speakers, I'm not distinguished, and I did not have time to write a short speech, so this won't take more than about half an hour. Just kidding. But Andy and I went over, I came back to the League of Municipalities as executive director, had that opportunity to be the CEO of the organization. Andy was the general counsel and chief legislative counsel. Right after that, on our membership's biggest issue, bad bill got out of the box, onto the House floor. And Darren, I know you won't believe this, but a member of the House misrepresented some things and said there on the House floor on second reading that, oh yeah, this is the bill that the compromise bill that the League agreed to. Andy and I were both sitting up in the gallery. We looked at each other. That was not how we remembered it, but that's how it was represented. And after some discussion, that bill passed second reading. So then Andy and I caucused. I said, you know, Andy, tell you what, you go home, let's both think about this over the weekend. Andy viewed me as a bit of a legislative tactician. So we went home, thought about it. We talked that Sunday evening, and we both had come to exactly the same conclusion about what to do about this, which made Andy very happy and me proud of him. We decided we were going to try to do something that we had never seen done on the House or Senate floor. Often in legislative committees, they substitute a completely new, different bill in a committee called a committee substitute. We had never seen an entire new bill substituted, House floor substitute, on the House floor, which the rules now would not allow, but they did then. So we thought we were going to give that a shot. We called Jerry Cohen, who was the guru, the head of the legislative drafting office, to make sure the rules did allow this. He said, oh yeah. Went to see the Speaker of the House, tell him what we were going to do. He said, oh yeah, I'll help you if you can get the votes. Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, we think. And so Andy orchestrated this. We told members, look, the gentleman said this was the bill the League agreed to, not the story. This actually is the bill the League agreed to. So we want to substitute this. Andy orchestrated everything that was going to happen on the House floor, found the right member of the General Assembly in the same political party to offer that, and got folks ready to speak in the right order, and it happened. We got that House floor substitute adopted, then it passed the third reading, but then it got more amusing. We went over to the Senate side. Some of you all knew Tony Rand, Senator Tony Rand, great lawyer, great sense of humor. He was waiting for us, knew why we were there. He agreed with us, our membership on the issue. He said something that I can't repeat here. We laughed. And then he said, what do you want me to do? And then he said, Senator, we want you to kill the bill. Well, there might have been a few other words in that phrase too, but so Tony said, okay, and that was it. That was a good example of the way Andy came to us, not having any experience around the General Assembly. He became an advocate in a different way. And he became very good at that. And it was fun to work with him in that regard. And he gave me, when I was the CEO of the organization, great legal advice and representation. We ran some insurance programs that amounted to a municipal insurance company in addition to being a traditional state municipal league. Always gave us sound advice that we could rely on. To Andy's daughters and to Donna, I thoroughly enjoyed working with Andy Romanet, even on some tense days, which usually involved the North Carolina General Assembly. But it was a joy, and I have fond memories, so many fond memories of your father and your husband.
Thank you to all of our speakers. I hope all of you have found this session to be as inspiring as I have. I thought we had some remarkable speeches today. I want to thank our esteemed judge, Judge Collins, for always being so accommodating and presiding over these sessions. I was thinking about it earlier today. I don't know how many of these sessions he has presided over, but the fact that he's willing to clear his calendar and to sacrifice his time on a Friday afternoon to come in and preside over these sessions speaks volumes about him and the significance of these sessions to our bar. So thank you, Judge Collins.
Thank you. I get a lot more out of it than any sacrifice that I make.
I also want to thank our elected sheriff, Willie Rowe, who took the time to be here with us today, and our elected clerk of court, Blair Williams, who I believe is also here in the back. Thank you for helping coordinate these sessions. And of course, it wouldn't be a special session of court without our courtroom clerk and our bailiff, so we appreciate both of you as well. Thanks to Whitney Von Hom, the executive director of the bar, Nathaniel Adcock, who is our staff liaison, and finally, I want to thank again our committee members for their time and dedication. As you can see, we had the session videoed, and so after it's edited and some additional photographs are added, you'll be able to view today's session on the Wake County Bar Association YouTube site. Thank you all again.
Well, and the biggest thanks of all goes to Mary Winstead. She just does such a fantastic job putting all this together and keeping us all headed in the same direction. And I was looking for your phone number today, and I couldn't find it because I kept looking up Mary Dumbalis. You've been Mary Winstead for longer than that. But anyway, I finally figured out your name. So I always leave these sessions inspired to go out and do great things, and then I never do. But we'll keep trying. I hope everybody will stick around and visit with each other. We love for you to do that. But at this time, Mr. Sheriff, if you would please place this ceremonial session of the Wake County Superior Court into adjournment, sine die.
All rise. Oh yes, this Honorable Superior Court, this special session of Superior Court is now adjourned, sine die. Oh yes. God save this Honorable Court. Have a good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you very much.